Dong Nyam Be Sim Chen Tam Chi Dewa Dong Den Dung Ra Dong Ji Nyor Tu La Na Mi Bara Yang Tho Bara Zo Be Shang Chu Rim Chi Tho Bara Sha Dong Ji.
All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and of nations, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of answer purpose, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood.
Tie chi tu sang ma ji ji war tu lu nga yi song ge wa la gur ma shi war tu lu nga yi song ge wa la gur tu te ren ne song de ni ma sang ta zam ji war tu lu nga yi song ge wa la gur.
Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind.
Oh yeah, okay. No jen chang de lo no ro tang man me ta wo pa de ni tian wo ga de sim de za we de me sa ju na ma yi na me shi yong na zo ban de da ju xi. Lo ina ma de shi de. Oh, 真的，他真的是咱们小人前情况，在结巴，从前结巴的哇，他说没地位，就他后面就让帮晒晒的哇，对，他说没地位，就他后面被就让帮过来，是的多。
Okay, yeah, so we're coming back to our text, the precious Garland of the sublime path. We are at the the 10 things to be rejected. Verse number 8. Reject frivolous behavior which may cause others to lose faith.
我在他这趟去呢，到我当初在的话，在他康救嘛，就去那里也不用么的，求青年别抢的抢同样中午，他们那火柴样中午，真对去那他们就看到不会。我这里呢，一个第三的，在阳台康救嘛，就去那里口嘛的，绝白那的康救嘛，就去那里口嘛的是。我天对，这没就看到了，没就看到那没这做刚在说的是有天有呢，有天马桶中他就红的。真的中才的呢，没就看到红的天呢，你把说说了跑过来天呢，this，马蒂吧，这就行了的是。
Can you hear me? Good.
看到哎，
Yeah, good. Shamba chill up some machine.
你那里可松哎，
Dana koso.
嗯，
Yeah. So here, this is about our conduct, and so this is saying that it's not good to engage in heedless behavior, especially as Buddhists. We should not engage in excessive drinking or taking drugs and smoking and so on. But if somebody else is engaging in these activities, also, we should not slander them. So even if we may think we have certain qualities, if we then put others down and we blame them for things, then actually we are just accumulating negativity ourselves.
这样呢，也在国家呀，让我的主要呀，让我的很多情况都没就上面看到是吧？我这种这条嘛的是我们那种新城弄的，这种日本机场对了，对吧？从日本机场接家，小家呀弄，大小家呀弄，对了接下，对了，但你要让我去出不小个的，上呢说别就是什么小，真的说在上面掐到的，但这样子家伙的。我就是是日本机场对了，对吧？对现在忙不对啥，在大上上个家忙不就那样的兄个是。来了地皮出的吧是，来了往学校在学习啊嘛的，那边去来了地方说什么，这个嘛的是来了地皮，我地皮出的吧，那地皮出的那他可能忙不出过，忙不拉了那样子， 我这得亏出国的，那是没天年吧在强，那说就把亚包呢，就把都亚的强着不认识的。我这旅在就把我说，没做这空气特别小呀，俺打对我嘞。亚包的空气强，我刚才看过，如果空气强过呢，俺来了我得说，这旅来了得亏出了，这把当强的，这么就往眼上挖是，但强通啥？但强通。我这呢，强通的到哪去？做出来嘛？我真的强通前，这里这个呢，有的前在做强通这是在就的，前你去他们的，你看你过，再看去头个嘛的，那这么就，多上工从其他情感性那的，多上工去头嘛的，提往去的，我真的，我但是人说话是这插话，娘把这种就是说这种帮忙些，是的插话娘们着呀，初步的帮过来，生活不落着的，就我的就生活心情在中国。他既然讲呀，他是没对啥大家的你来了这种得可以出国点把题，我这强头啥的，人现就呀的，我这是出国的，插换你们就抽的是，我这绿色帮过来中多，
So druk, den så tanga ti ike tanga tes jok druk den sian kia sonrona.
那唐伯他既然讲呀的哇，
Mhm.
既然讲呀，其实没对啥大家的，上个家很没我啥子，上个家是的，这玩对我打死，对打死，我真的来了的哇，
Mhm.
什么的，希
Ja.
望是得可以出国的呀。我把这强头上，出国的钱我都要，
Mhm.
我这提出国这插换年没出的，是这种帮我些，是用到我们这种。
Mhm. Um, so there are certain activities that one should not engage in. For example, basically all these activities that that will make others like criticize one, those things that are generally considered negative, like stealing or lying, gambling, and so on. There's actually a quote from Nagarjuna, which comes from a letter to a friend, and in there he mentions that there are 6 things that will cause one to lose kind of one's fame, one we cause one to have a bad reputation, basically. And so he said the first one is gambling, for example, playing with dice and cards and so on, just gambling. Then the next one is to I think engage in no, when we gamble, for example, we sometimes we kind of lose our control, and we get reckless, and we become really combative and reckless, risking our wealth, and that can lead to a total loss. And so many people suffer from that. So that's the gambling, and then the second part, the second negativity not to engage in is to not to mix with big crowds of people, and then kind of getting into like fights and troubles there with other people. And then the third one is laziness, being lazy. And that is very obviously negative. Then the fourth one is to be under the influence of a negative companion. That is because in the beginning, at first, you may be good, but if you always surround yourself with a bad influence, you will take on these bad habits. And it's said that it's easy to pick up bad habits, but it's very hard to cultivate positive habits. So therefore, one should not associate too much with like, evil companions or people that engage us in a lot of negative activities. And then the next one is drinking alcohol and taking various intoxicants. When we drink, drinking leads to losing self-control. A drunk person doesn't have any awareness and gets into all kinds of trouble. And then the next one is, for example, when we are drinking and we are wandering around. Or the last one is wandering around at night. So which also happens when we may be drunk. So we may wander around at night and then drink and then sleep all day. And when we sleep all day, we are unable to work or do anything during the day, and we lose the ability to listen, to learn, to reflect, and to meditate. And so then this weakens one's inner determination, and one is on one's way to the lower realms. So these are those 6 major downfalls mentioned by Nagarjuna that one should avoid. So it's gambling, kind of mixing with negative people, and being lazy, or kind of mixing with negative people or getting into trouble, lazy, negative influences, drinking, and then wandering around at night.
that's the chart. That is, you know, so just on this, the John Shadamina, things on to show him John concept of Ziggy. You think she does Ziggy Mare. 但几天中中都让就商业没太，让就了俺让说就了商业还有些了代码说就的，先中操心俺也着，先中操作的，刚他做个嘞是吧？先中的自己的做的是，中东把这边就呢，中东把有了，我中东把开始让中天幕，让中他去天幕 gaps， 天幕那会说 gap 他让中的 gap 他去个嘞是。 我先中他们进做么处是先中做这关的这一天呢，可能都在打开的啥在老头嘛头单子，现在中他做的时候，他推推的在都看，这你刚刚说，这你得在啊，在90年的现在没就还说90年大的，然后就看样对没都是，我在推拉我说，这你我真的在先，我推马记的西过的送的。
And so nowadays, often it's hard for us to look at our own faults, to see our own faults. And it's difficult for us, very rare, to see the qualities in others. It's because we just don't examine our own faults, but we easily find the faults in others. So this was also said by Jigten Sumgen. Nowadays, it's we don't examine our own faults, but we try to always find the faults in others. And Dom Dumbo had said that no, we hide our faults in the palm of our hand, so that our faults are hidden in the palm of our hand, while like in the fist, while our finger stretches out and points at the faults of others, while in our palm we're actually holding our own faults. But we are very good at finding faults in others, even if their faults are not so obvious. We look for them, we try to find their faults. And so he said that in this way, this is what causes the mind to never become tame. This is not how you can tame your mind, and therefore this is not what we should do. So
我真的在旁边帮过知道旁边是呀子啊，恰送那个说今天吃完呢，花上几把连那里活的，后面抢那里看他来出个嘛的，这个你看他要不用个嘛的，我在后面做这个在康州嘛就去个的，这你得要嘛的，好久他去过的是，我真的去了去年呢，花有这些开心不起来的我。 我们那着新城那有开始，好有都是那的方面的是，好有的都是那我的，的是方面吧呢，七月呢是特别高的，七月呢方面吧，但七亚肯定是那种特别高的，对，几天可能7万多嘛，都没7万那我的，但七月呢是特别升级重点的，这种我的是，我这里特别求就给求不的，说特别求就给求说不的亚去的。 特别大的话，堂基本可堂基本好有的钱开钱不的种多啊。我听都俺那说的这，但바로 마디的好有，还有那这应该做叫他们做好有把钱。我听系统那这偏头有的，可是那好有些的，俺这是开钱不有啥了，好有钱的个就把这些，汤包就把要不些他们呐，现在说这话有把钱的，刚说这钱的，说空红的，没得光就把压的做特别。 唐伯要不用那压的，空变着特别好。我听绿的说，今年在花友期的那来钱吧，可能那 drop 特别好。我听了也不 drop 特别好。我再听着偏头啥的哇。
And then heedlessness, like unmindfulness is also something that must be given up. So I see. So even in a mundane sense, for example, we need to have some mindfulness, because even in the world, without this heedfulness, mindfulness, we cannot accomplish anything. If we are careless in all of our activity and to just do as we please, do all kinds of things, then nothing meaningful will be accomplished. So and not even speaking about the Dharma, nothing meaningful can be accomplished. Then also Nagarjuna has said that this mindfulness, in terms of Dharma practice, mindfulness, this heedfulness, is like nectar, and that causes you to accomplish anything. But if you lack mindfulness, if you're careless, then it is like the drink of death, because nothing will be accomplished, neither in the world nor in the Dharma. So heedfulness, mindfulness is essential in increasing our virtue state of mind. And that grows as we make an effort in mindfulness. So it is always important. It is always needed. So even if you're not that mindful in the beginning, if you make an effort, if you stay with it continuously, it will get better. And if you're already good with having mindfulness, it will get even better. And it's necessary to always have mindfulness, because anything is accomplished only through that. So.
这真正恰的吧？这当没就把压迫这用的，这方面然后这恰送那真的，就让空气啪着，说话下现在空气着吧，我这方面空气恰送这方面恰着呀，下空气恰送的，空气恰的空气恰呀的，就当没开心的，被压迫成这样的，这都不着了，都这，就让这实嘛的，真的。这方面强着说的，我这看不说的，说就当工地时代了，我要嘛，这是防暴控制说啥子起多些呢？这开心不多啊。
And so even if somebody already has mindfulness, is mindful in the beginning, that can still change, because basically this mindfulness, heedfulness is an imprint. It's a karmic and a habitual pattern. And if we habituate to it, it will get stronger. But if we do something else, then that will get stronger. So it can get better or worse. So maybe sometimes maybe it's possible in the beginning that you're doing very well. You're very mindful. You're doing really good. There are some people who are very good initially, but then later they deteriorate because they're just not careful enough when it comes to their behavior, their conduct. They're mindless, and then they slip into negative tendencies. Even if initially they start out with good behavior, they slip into negative tendencies. And then once these tendencies are established, it's not easy to change them. So it's easy to slip into these tendencies, but once we are in these tracks, it's very difficult to turn that around. So therefore, it's important to be very careful in the beginning.
我在这国外在马路上，千万别去死路头啊！
Sepotito ina yang sepotitis.
死路头，记着吧。
근데 곧 이게 캔서리도 점점 이해라고 점점 연락고 그래도 캔서리도 내가 말이 내가 디사리
这写，他聪明着都来趟前吧，帮写着吧。
아하
我这个从大买来这，看来是啥子就开心了，对不对？看来是，是我这现在这上个从大买来看就门着点的，说穷钱不价的，这也不用买的，看是那这咱们这用这个的这，那去年咱们这哈这个的这呢。 这挺重要的，那这个俺说莫谈让我在城里那这，莫谈让我都代表让我咱们这用谁吧？我这从前当中那这康就们干着的这莫谈恐怕讲着的呢，莫谈这土壤让我咱们这用谁？这样的，从大没的咱都要这七八天帮过来送的吧？这七八天来他从大没来看来呀。 that's so bang for
Then we move on to verse number 9. That is, reject meaningless aims and activities while walking and sitting. Meaningless activity. So we engage in often we do all kinds of meaningless things, and in the end, all that is really accomplished is that we are just exhausted from doing all these things. And many faults actually come from that. And that is because when we do meaningless things, all sorts of things can happen as we are doing these things. For example, you're driving around with your car, you could have a car accident. When you're driving around in a city, for example, or you're walking in a city and a car runs into you. So just these aimless activities can cause all kinds of other trouble. And so it's better to abandon them and engage in more mindful activities. So.
저는 다들이 말도 된 돈나 확자 항미 교람한테 방고 봐 돈다 지바레스 티 돈다서 두 향연정 지관정 그래서 돈다서 레주 그래서 어디 추당 직전 강 인야다 야창 마창 피디나 다 추에나 히라 드롭 하고 말이야 야르제 로하지 마르제 로하지 들이 파리양 이게 나한테 메시신도 지즈밀라레베 추 상자 나지 메시시 셀라로 그 상이 되시고 다 들은 참참디 조다 상이 되시고 좀 같이 상이요 상이 되려 그러 들으시리 소 상자 나지 메시시 있어 어디로 차로 그래서 근데 그냥 잡아야 나다 야로 하지 마로 하지 되 뭐되지는 소소 내가 싫어 드롭트고 말해 드롭트고 말와테 로데지 내가 드롭도 야 이거 말와테 뭐야 참만 잡아 뻔스 방고스
And so in short, we must give up unmindful activities, whether in the Dharma or in our worldly lives. If we just keep going here and there and doing this and that, really aimlessly, nothing really is accomplished and life is wasted. Milarepa had said, thinking, I will do it tomorrow, my life just runs out. Then tomorrow comes, and tomorrow you put it off again for the next day. And in this way, life runs out without ever accomplishing anything. So all of this busyness of going here and there leads to very little accomplishment. So therefore, we should give it up.
他今天单片让我在了，但着都忙那起就是，但俺妈那起，其实忙不有了起说家，俺着一等点起都说家后头了，后咱别下样起来，这意思就起俺我他就现场说的，他就说家个的是，吃拉忙呢，确实这确实人都家的的，我这结果起来就忙不穷，那这确实他见俺把他吃过个的是。 看送居民那球堂是吧？看送居民球堂呢，球堂他呢我看看就忙就在那边，看这从大面看那边等这球可能在掐，用了钱不掐个来。那送居民的马当呢？那送居民在这送这看就忙进那块头马说个来是吧？我这呢，他就这看的那从大去买的去吃饭的，帮的要我的是，帮过是。
And so there's this kind of saying that we have in Tibet, and so in Tibet, in the old days, especially when we go around, just going around aimlessly, one thing that could happen to you is that you get bitten by a fierce dog. There's this huge, scary dogs in Tibet, and if you go around, then maybe you get bitten by one of those dogs if you get too close. So basically, if we just go around, it's a bit of a risk because we can run into so many different negative conditions, or we meet all kinds of people and then we start speaking all kinds of meaningless words, and those words again can get us into more trouble and so on. Basically, when we go around, we going to be a bit more likely to do all sorts of reckless things. We're doing something with your hands, and then you injure yourself, and then you create wounds and so on. So therefore, so whether it's in a mundane or a dharma sense, really, it's important to give up these meaningless activities.
真的，咱这差不多，接着来的吃饭客人呢，来看的吃饭客人，同这一次来看吃饭客人，同他基本上是的， 믹스에 그가는데 지금 차발에 가서 차바다 추추 차바 코나스 와단 지금 추추한테서 코나스 다 제동 我他那时候这趟车吧，他说那票据他几天那个就是从大去闽南是过哇，啥过哇，我他这趟几天去吧，我说在做完几个就可以开轻薄的，我说他和跟北京这趟开心趟车吧，他说这个过嘛的，他这几天过嘛的，没我那不多过呀，现在他的去闽南是啥过哇，咋就把他是我啥过呀，咋就把他。我这悄悄才把他，我那这趟子咋就要，你知道我那这悄悄才把他赢了，我真的。偏头钱包要嘛6个月有的那不，现在他这可以买几枪了，是吧？
And so in general, is that whatever activity or work, whatever activity one engages in, whether mundane or a dharma activity, one should give up this kind of frivolous, meaningless acts. And so keeping in mind now these teachings are generally, they were originally meant for monks. And so for them, the instruction was that their Dharma practice takes priority, and in the scriptures, therefore, it mentions that they should not cut grass and do different worldly activities and so on. But of course, and from our perspective, there are of course some worldly tasks that need to be done, that we need to do. So we just have to take it, not look at it from the right perspective, not take it in the right context.
真的拖上这冲针把那些，但没俺们别拖上这冲针的，但没俺们那在这冲针嘛，那没俺着在没那的，你们养他把气头嘛的也是。他可惜在那么高呀嘛都是俺们别吃的，其实呢，你们吃的这个是真多。这几个去呢，这个嘛的也是，那没俺们那这出头也不是，这你们这也不气头嘛的也是。这里。我这样子可惜那个咱这其他的呀没这种这样的呢，怕这个就这个就得说老话说了，你们其他去没去？这就呀，我这些了。我这常常去强不看的是要强皮的，都是啥去强不的，知道吧？
Chichame,
去强不是那去打火没叫他那说
kita
的。
puhumme dinansinagre.
这东西的扬州滚多少要嘛的扬州
Mm,
嘛都挺
mm,
多的。
mhm. And then also it is said that if you do not have the essential instructions from the Lama, from the Guru, then you cannot, even if you go into a mountain retreat, into a isolated retreat, just on your own without any essential instructions, it won't lead to true practice. That is mentioned because there are some people who say that I don't need a teacher, I just go and practice. But that alone is not enough. We need the guidance of the Lama, of the Guru. Without that, it's very difficult to properly practice the teachings. And you can see sometimes there's people who do go into an isolated retreat, but they just can't stay and can't sit still. They're constantly pacing around here and there. Maybe they're even disturbing the other companions that are in retreat with their constant activity. And they're just constantly wandering around and they can't really practice. So they are basically like kind of like a wild dog that has no owner, wild dog just roaming around aimlessly.
这哪对的是，但是七八十多来的了，七八哪一的，咱不的时候，你忙个时候不熊熊讲了，这么这些其他要么了哇，像这多这种地差那路去的，这哪怕是做什么生意嘛家，多多公家店地那路差不差和其他俺都不的，
Das kann sogar jeder.
但俺是不都这么这点，然后是俺嘛好，但俺是从小都不说这么这样，没事要嘛那多路去的咩，多那么。Ja, det är samtidigt dit och den jag sa det han jobb nog jag den kan det sa nog jag vill ju som mamma ja det den du dit då namn hittar man va och det tänker man det är det med det det sen det chipa sin sale då det chipa 他们去同美桥啊，这也不用，但这么这现在可能说要不可能说这样用啊用个哇，这同大没来，不可能说这我是同大有了，但同大起来有嘛的，是哪一类是的，啊，比如啊。
Mhm. Mhm. And then also it said that, or also in this way, one remains to be like a child. So, for example, who's just playing with toys. So when Ruben said when he was young as a child, they didn't really actually have a lot of toys to play with. We played with stones and pebbles and twigs and so on. They just didn't really have toys, and they would just throw those pebbles back and forth, and then the fingers would crack open because weather is quite cold. And so, of course, for the child, it's fun and there is some meaning in it for the child, but ultimately it's actually meaningless what they're doing. It's not really meaningful, even though it feels meaningful to the child. And so it's similarly to someone who is practicing in this way. They may think that there is some meaning, but in reality, it's more like child's play.
대 라도 다 전주나 대송어리세 도미 사고 자주 다 사고야 자줘야 돼 사진제 소 제조나 사르몬데 야노다 제주 좀 강조만 치디나 대시 라바 체제는 성제 좀 된데 기타 라바도 제한고리 스타 라바스는 수템 라바 띵엔지 라바 히라 라바 요로 와다도 제한고리 제한치네 잡아서에 몰아서 저한테 자는 단들이 도다면 뒤서 좋아 당선데 제한데 근데 파트 요시고리 송도와
Bodhicharya Vatara, it says that when you find yourself in a situation where you want to spend your time on meaningless things, like just various meaningless activities, like drawing something or eating, doing all kinds of different things that are basically meaningless, that is when you should remember what the Buddha had taught. You should remember the three higher trainings that the Buddha had taught. That is the training in ethical discipline, with the training in wisdom, and the training in samadhi. So whenever you find yourself you're about to waste your time on meaningless distractions, meaningless activities, that is the time to let them go and remember the teachings.
在农田人家说我的是，那都是康贝过说是，那他的是在康巴那家那光都那里去那光都是这么当多多是，我在咱们地那咱们这么多当都有是吧？没空的不错着吧？要是把你们俩去的那他真的在这些年说明了，真的在做的那是。我真的同情我呢，没在这边，就是我同大亲朋友嘛的，实际上他们在这些就是，前几学了过年堂，我在前外去啊，说你们俩去那个学了过的是朋友过的，是他在农家他们家红年堂里送的哇，这个嘛在有几岁没来他们就，这几岁没了，我们那在那来嘛的，这车外就有的是，这车外是不了呢，这几岁没了家那叫的，他家帮我了通话啥的个，家几岁没了没写家什么的车外提去。这人康变多，才嘛在年纪的来是这都是的。这这话这提供钱成这三路当我啥的过，他好久也有啥，他把从他呀呢在下头在从进来，空开始哭啥的，他怎么嘛不当过，他好久他把在下头空是在打的，他那是哭啥的咱，钱成过他怎么当的都啥的，这怎么当的，他哪么啦可的这话的呀啦，这卡通给就那起。在天主期在娘们的期的推的送的期有啥哇？晓得的几岁没了，你得都啥的？晓得几岁没了，这哪儿是吃饭的？就看的是那叫把这学个呀，看懂了没的？你都他弄，就看的是哪儿是？这几岁没了的个，我去年的这趟年都年下面是，那打工啊发球子，从小我看这怎么当的？你去回家去说啥嘛？说这他让你口头里面都是哪儿是？几岁没来哈过说啥？然后可能吃饭的怎么公司哇？这个呢，咱打工现成你可嘛就推出出来，弄这怎么当的？我打推就下西，这哪里噻？
There's a teaching by Longchen Rabcham, clear hard advice by Longchen Rabcham, and he said that even if you stay in isolation, if you, first of all, even if you stay, for example, inside your house and you don't go outside, but if your mind just looks at the house and then thinks about how could I decorate it? Maybe it needs a different kind of design and so on. You plan different things about the house in your mind. Then it's no different than just being in a world, out in the world. Or even if you're in a mountain retreat in isolation, if your thoughts are filled with worldly concerns, making all kinds of plans and having all kinds of aspirations and intentions, then there's also not much benefit, and your lifespan just runs out and nothing meaningful is accomplished. Therefore, let go of distractions and only focus on the practice. Then there was a story by Milarepa. So once Milarepa visited a monastery, and so there was this monk who didn't know that this is Milarepa, and so he just thought he's this poor beggar lying around. And so then this monk, he was like lying there outside, next to his rock, and went to bed, and he seemed to have been sleeping. It was nighttime. But then what this beggar really was doing in his mind, even though it seemed like he was resting, he actually spent this monk spent the entire night not sleeping, but thinking about, if I sell this cow, how much will I get? If I sell this yak, how much will I get for it? So he spent the whole night calculating how much money he will get out of selling these yaks and cow. And he was just lost in these thoughts all night long. Then in the morning, he got up and did his prayers and was practicing diligently, held his session in the monastery and so on. And meanwhile, Milarepa was still lying there, sleeping. And then the monk asked him, so will you call yourself a yogi? What are you doing? You're still sleeping in the morning? And then Milarepa said, well, normally I don't sleep in the morning, but last night I couldn't sleep because all night long I was thinking about the cows and the yaks and how much I could potentially get if I were to sell them, if I sold them. And so Milarepa apparently knew exactly what this monk was thinking with his clairvoyance, and so he then like acted like he was the one thinking it.
我真的他就话的吧，
嗯
就话这长穷别呢，先穷找把帮才是领导他。我这长穷这他别的开的呢，这先穷这主要别来了我的他。我从江门公出那边江北有话听呐，长穷是我咱们这矿的别是，先穷定着咱们要抓紧么是我，但是长穷是我能用的，后边能他别的个是。先穷的定着咱们穷有什么名呢？这怕他就抓，怕接不着去扛出不起个是。我这是重要的吧？我这想这六七八年吧，他才说帮我的，7、8年吧帮我给，这7、8年吧是帮我的。我这就去过了，但这张这先从找什么吧，忙不起呢？就忙不死的，说用个的是。这当咱先忙拍皮的东西，瞧这些呢先忙拍皮来，瞧这些呢让嘛提前嘛的把不着啥的吧？还是那么用，那个也没都扔个吧？我听的，我听的是。
And so now we move on to verse number 10, and that is reject hiding your own faults while proclaiming those of others. That's what we always do. We always try to hide our own faults, and we try to find the faults in others. We proclaim the faults in others. Jamgyal Kongtrul said, the Kawasungsong,
那边讲不能是吧？
in calling the guru from afar, Jamgyal Kongtrul said, in calling the guru from afar, our own faults are like a mountain, but we try to hide them. Others' faults, even if they're tiny, we try to blow them up and point them out as much as we can. And so these verses speak about abandoning negative conduct with our body, and now here also with speech, speaking badly about others only brings more faults on you. And so First of all, it's negative to speak bad about others, but also if you speak bad about others, then other people will also see you as someone who speaks bad about others, and therefore they will begin to think poorly of you.
真的大的呢，马把忙不自己，把就忙不有这光桥这些，这些的
La.
呢，马把给钱忙不拉，那这种就现在给钱忙不拉呢，这种忙不有的些的光桥这些，这上节现在中国的些呢，真的欺骗马把求了拉的娘，是吧？马别求了，但看就忙就现在中国就领着说句了，娘们这个也是。Sam 的明天拉不走，说他们先把中国先把就是的，说 Sam 他了对我是啦用嘛，现在。现在 Sam 对我用嘛，Sam 在前的先把中就是的，他中在前中英这个，在前的蛮这个晓得，刚就忙就拉皮呢，真的说了，你这帮我用的哇，那现在的行通，拉的人说，现在的行通都是他人的这个，是你们做起头嘛，现在拉皮的给些康就忙用，这当俺做给些康就忙了，俺切拉个了俺切，真的忙完了，你怕，那他或者我忙不完，但你怕他去用过来是。
So the Buddha said that if you speak too much about the faults of others, your own mind will deteriorate. If you focus only on the faults of others, you will also never have peace in your own mind. You never find happiness in your own mind. And so whether it is what you say is true or not, they may or may not have that fault, but pointing out their faults creates a lot of trouble. So, for example, it keeps you from practicing. If you are preoccupied with speaking too much, you will not establish a practice of calm abiding, like shamatha and vipassana, special insight. These practices become distant and you won't be able to practice properly. So basically, idle talk, just meaningless chatter, leads to just talking too much. And talking too much leads to a lot of trouble and negativity.
真打把桌面都是七八的，但现场桌那你怕忙不有的，现场桌那你怕忙不，就当现场桌对在一起呢，可惜刚在中山体育去了，在亚波村的、团波村的，你们俩有交村的有这个的话，这有那真的这种你怕钱有的是，真的刚去主要建通呀，他那你怕没了，先把这度假东西呢，他干嘛了想想这个是，人家没种桌国家嘛是的，你怕没大是。真的吧？也切讲来切讲是，这个才错的。说的，其他的这个才错误的是。我这说嘛，就把当中有说呢，说讲的通了，但干嘛了想想呢？这是这个差去了吧？这这个的是。
Then in the Moonlight Sutra, it says that when you speak about the faults of others, speaking about the faults of others creates many problems. It creates much wrongdoing because it is possible that someone has a high practice, an advanced level of practice, and it is said that pointing out the faults of higher being, of greater beings, is even worse, and we don't know that. So if you see bad behavior in others, there's no need to talk about it. Don't talk about it, because each person will experience the results of their own action. So if you say something, there will be a result coming from that. It is often better if just left alone. And it's possible that if you just let it be without the need of slandering them, it's possible that they may even improve over time.
我当让穷别多，先穷着下他帮过来是，他穷的让穷他把了，先穷他把别，让穷他着呢这个是。我在家里看过来是来长播吧，这是家里看过来是，那他在先穷的让穷娘他把别的这个什么，在先穷着是的，基本这个嘛的是，我说后别解有的，让我了，中送我们都是中在那压着哇，中有的哇，等着的呢，同个嘛的说。先我来写送嘛，同时在先我来先东把这写着的，就东把这写着的都做了个哇， 와테 나 흉흉스면 미나데 통도 그랬어 랑고다 야제 침보로 와테 통 말했어 네 들을 차로 그래서 뭐야 소소소로 와
Mhm.
소소 중한테 양대 다 통을 말했어 침보 거시구나 현종대다 흉흉스면 미나데 통도 그랬어 라표다 내가서 호흡 빼나 그러와
Mhm. Mhm. So then in Tibet, first for this, so we need to give up expressing the faults of others and trying to hide our own faults. But instead, the better thing to do is to hide others' faults while exposing our own. But this is a little bit difficult for a beginning practitioner. So for a beginning practitioner, for us, it may be best to avoid both. So to basically to hide every fault. We can hide our own faults, but also we hide the faults of others. We just don't look at their faults. So there's this Tibetan saying. It says that we cannot see our own faults, even if they are as huge as a drone. It's like a yak kind of hybrid. It's like a huge animal. Even if we cannot see our own faults, even if they are huge. But we notice even the lice on the head of others. So meaning that even others may have a tiny fault as big as a louse, and we will see it and we will point it out. So this is what people do. This is what people in general do. Basically, what we do is we don't want to see our own fault, no matter how big it is. We only want to see the fault in others.
전에 다 나랑서 자이지 있어 곰자제 요러 그
Mhm.
곰지 있어 지나러 와
Mhm. Yeah. So now we will meditate for a bit.
드네 다 드네 진상이 드네 가서 이미 총수와 그래
Re, eme tong re.
나공 총수와
Re, dan re nima ni ngulara, tango ni nima.
대 공은 이제 나 총수도 가서 대바제 만남 뒤가 대바제 만남 이제 농고 스카스나 공 당가서 안도나 초소로 만벌에 갈래 지루와
Mhm. So we stop here
시야시
for
대바제 만남 대바제 만남
yeah, we stop here for today, and today we're gonna do a little different dedication prayer because Amy Fry Miller has passed away 2 days ago. And she actually served at the Gachun Buddhist Institute in Arizona for many years. So she passed away, and this evening we're going to read the Devachen prayer for her birth in Devachen.
시야시 요해 대바제 만남 bar 마지 나 되겠다 드레티나 요지 요로 아니 류티 배보 ma ho ngon zar san ji na ma dai dang ye su cho wo tu ji jian bo dang yong te sen ba tu jian to na la san ji jiang xuan bang min ko ji ko de qie ngon zar ba du mi ba ye de ba jian xi jia bi xin gang de a qian de de ne qian bo chur ma da jie wa xian jie har ma chu ba te re jie ne nan te xian tong xiu di ki da ki mo lan da ba ye 小学三节相声，谈节节给民着把那情节拉得做。第他变成这样，我人不得那也说哈。也马会观察了三节，那完他也当也是就我头见不当。 用特身把推荐托那来，上级相声报名过结果，啊得结果在把的没把也得把进去这新港的。 sen de ne sen po chur ma ta je wa shen je har ma chu bar te re je ne nan te shen tong sho di gi da ke mo la da ban di cho chu san je chang sen tan je je keng min ro bar shen je la de 第他变成这样，我人不得那一说哈。你去多少这通
？Elizabeth, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you please do in English?
Yes. Emaho. In the center is the wondrous Buddha Amitabha of boundless light. To his right is Chenrezig, the Lord of great compassion, and to his left is Vajrapāṇi, the Bodhisattva of great power. They are surrounded by an inconceivable number of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Limitless peace and happiness is the pure land of great bliss. As soon as I and others pass from this life, unhindered by another samsaric birth, may we be born there and see the face of Amitabha, boundless light. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, through your blessings, please accomplish this aspiration without hindrance. Tayata pansandriya awabodana yesoha.
네, 저리게 이제 괜찮은 거.
glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind, root, and lineage lamas, divine assembly of yadams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, heroes and heroines, yogini and assembly of dakinis, dwelling in the 10 directions, please heed me. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all sentient beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise within my mind. May thoughts of fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. Even at death, may the torment of suffering not arise. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such, and in the pervasive clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Then, 지금 선이 나도 가려.
나도 믹스면 돼.
지금 나도 로산 삼도 쉬니까 막 하시 시간 니 나용 투자 레벤 좀 나.
가대.
주소在지는 고를 시나 주주와서.
걔한테 주제 줘라.
응, 주와시나 데.
오케이. Chicago 주제 줘봐.
응.
오케이.
야야, 안 되다.
Die Zoom çıkar var.
아, 좀
Zoom
이제
하갈.
도지 되고.
Ja, ja. Okay.
Yeah, okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you. See you next week.
And please join for Losar tomorrow, right? Jupala?
Today, yeah. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy Losar.
Yeah,
Tomorrow
happy
morning
today.
there's practice, right?
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you, Jupala.
Thank
Gracias,
you.
Lama.
Yes,
Thank you.
tomorrow we
Gracias.
have a New Year Losar celebration. We are doing a Lama Chopa Guru Yoga talk offering. Please join with us if you have
Zambala,
time.
song.
And also we do the Zambala summoning of good fortune and the smoke offering and everything we're gonna do tomorrow. So please welcome if you have time. Thank you everyone. Happy Tibetan New Year.
Losar Tashidele. Jupala, thank you.
What time?
10 o'clock.
Feliz Tomorrow. Feliz año.
10 o'clock tomorrow.
Central.
10 o'clock.
Yeah, Chicago time.
Central Time at 10 a.m.
Okay.
Thank you.
방법 좋아. Yeah, okay. Yeah, good evening. Okay, thank you. See you tomorrow.